Hello, I'm Lorette Legan, President of the Jacksonville-Onslow Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin our forum, I'd like to ask everyone in the audience to please make sure your cell phone and other electronic devices are turned off. Thank you. On behalf of the Chamber membership and our Board of Directors, I want to thank you for joining us for our Forum Onslow. The Chamber works with government agencies on issues that affect our business community. We monitor legislative issues that impact local business. We promote partnerships between business, government, military, and education. And we use these forums to create awareness on topics that are important to the entire community, such as the election of those that represent us on the state and local level. We are pleased to have Duke Energy as the sponsor of this Meet the Candidates Forum. Derek Reamer is the District Manager for Duke Energy North Carolina Government and Community Relations. His territory is 11 counties here in eastern North Carolina, so you can imagine he's a pretty busy man. But he did record a message for you today.
Hello and welcome, candidates. I'm Derek Reamer, your District Manager for Government and Community Relations at Duke Energy. We're proud to sponsor these candidate forums and thank the Chamber of Commerce for working hard to make sure you're given this opportunity. At Duke Energy, we're committed to providing reliable and affordable power. Our rates remain below average, and we continue to make improvements to strengthen the grid. Most recently, this can be seen in our response to Hurricane Ian, where we were able to get almost 1 million customers in the Carolinas back online in just a few days, while also responding to the devastation in Florida. This is proof of our continued investment in infrastructure and people. Our line workers are an especially valuable asset who consistently go above and beyond, often working in the harshest conditions to get things back to normal. We all owe them thanks. And finally, thanks to each of you who continue to aspire to help your communities by running for public office. It's in tough times like Hurricane Ian where your service will be of most value, and for that, I thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Derek. And now it's time to start our forum. And I'm going to turn it over to our two moderators today, Mr. Elliott Potter and Mr. Jeff Hudson.
Okay, well, thank you, Lorette. And candidates, welcome to another forum. I know you all have been involved in some of these at some point in time in your career, and we appreciate that you participate today. As usual, lots of interest in the General Assembly races, and I don't know that that will change anytime soon. We do have, today we have the candidates for NC House 15, District 15, and we also have the candidates for House District 14. Chris Schulte, the Democratic candidate for NC House 15, was unable to join us today due to work commitments. The other candidate in the District 15 House race is Republican incumbent Phil Shepard, and he is here with us today, so we appreciate that. And in the other race, the candidates are in House District 14, Republican incumbent George Cleveland and Democrat Isaiah Ike Johnson. So welcome, gentlemen. I want to go over some of the basic rules of engagement, even though I know you probably are familiar, and I know that they were sent to you in advance. I always remind people to start with that this is a forum, it's not a debate. We would appreciate it if you would allow or address your answers to the moderators, to the audience, rather than to each other. All questions that we ask, we attempt to be general in nature so that they're suitable for all candidates, not directed at one particular person. We've reached the general election, which means our candidate fields are smaller, and that allows us to give a little more time for you to take a moment to express your opinions fully and connect with the voters. Everything we do today is going to be 90 seconds, so you can look at this except for one thing, and that's the rebuttals. But our opening remarks are 90 seconds, and then each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the questions. At that time, we'll alternate the order of the questioning, and at the end of each round of questions, candidates do have a chance to make a rebuttal. They have 2 opportunities to do that, and you do that by raising your red card at the end of all the, when everybody has answered the question once, If you raise your red card, I will call on you and you will have an additional 30 seconds to either address something that's been said or perhaps expand on what you said earlier. And I would say also that these should be used in the question and answer sessions, not in summations. So at summations, you will also have 90 seconds. So you will have more time. Now, I say 90 seconds. If you don't feel like taking the entire 90 seconds, that's fine with us. We'll just keep moving. I think we're going to go for about an hour here, and I think I got enough questions to last. We do have a system for letting you know how your time stands. And you're familiar with that. You've got the lights there, the red being, of course, when you stop, the yellow being telling you that you've got 30 seconds to go. Now, I will say that when the red light flashes, we ask that you complete the sentence you're on, not necessarily your thought, because that could go on for a while. But we'll I'll listen for it, and then it may seem a bit abrupt, but I think it's the fairest way to do it is just to end it at that time. As close to that as you can. So complete that sentence and let's move on. We will ask that the audience refrain from applause during the program, and we'll do that at the end. We are hoping to keep this to 1 hour. If there are no questions, we can get started with the opening statements. And the candidates, you're asked to state your name, provide a little background information about yourself, including where you reside in the area and your current occupation. It may be like mine, but please give us an idea about why you are running for office. So with that, let's get started, and we're going to try to keep Mr. Shepherd separated so that the two candidates that are opposing each other will be answered back to back. So. Phil Shepherd, opening statement.
Well, I want to thank the Chamber as well as the Duke Power Energy for sponsoring the program today. And I was born and raised in Onslow County, been here all my life. I've served in the North Carolina General Assembly for the last 6 sessions, and I look forward to continuing to serve the people because it's an honor to be a servant of the people. We've done some really good things in North Carolina since when I went there in 2011. We were in debt to the federal government with Medicaid, unemployment, and unemployment in some parts of the state was up to 14%. We had regulations in the state at that time that the federal government didn't even require, but the state did. And it was a stronghold on businesses and companies trying to do business in the state of North Carolina, along with our corporate tax and individual tax rates and so forth. So at that time, we had some tough decisions to make because we were in a recession. And we made those tough decisions, and we made cuts where we needed to because the state constitution requires that we balance the budget in North Carolina. And so we balanced the budget that year. We also cut the sales tax that had been applied for years before that, and we came out of that. And because of all those changes, North Carolina now is one of the top 5 states in the country to do business with, and it's better for the citizens of the state, the taxpayers, and companies wanting to do business in North Carolina. And I'm blessed to be a part of those changes that we brought about to help this state. And so I'd like to continue those same policies, those conservative Republican policies that help the people in the state of North Carolina. And I thank the County of Onslow for allowing me to serve those last several years.
Okay. Now we'll move down the table to the District 14 candidates, and we'll go with Ike Johnson.
Thank you. Thanks to the Chamber and to Duke Energy for causing this event to take place. I'm a 27-year Marine Corps veteran. I've been a business executive at the vice president level. I serve on several committees and boards within the community. I'm the chair of the J.T. Kerr Missionary Baptist Church, chair of the Deacon Board, and I'm a community mentor with the school system. Been there about 12 years with a program where we work with young boys and girls to make sure that they graduate high school. After the last 18 years, I think the citizens of Onslow County District 14 has an opportunity to make a change in their representation. The choice is clear in my mind. I think we have the opportunity to elect someone that has the interests of the individual citizen at heart. And so I think I understand the military, I understand the military families, I understand retirees and the veterans and the citizens here. And so I'm here to serve and work together with the people of Onslow County District 14.
Mr. George Cleveland.
Thank you, and again to the Chamber and Duke Energy for the opportunity to be here today. I live over in Bryn Mawr and Campbell Place, right by the community college. I'm a retired Marine, had a successful career. I've taught school in the private sector, and I've taught school in the public sector. I worked at the Department of State Military, or the Diplomatic Security, and I've enjoyed the careers and jobs that I've done. But one of the more satisfactory ones is when I got elected and could go to Raleigh and do what needed to be done for the people of Onslow County and the state of North Carolina. I've worked in Raleigh under Democratic administrations with the Democratic majority, and it was, as well known, it's hard to get things done, but I did accomplish a few things. I should say we, it's not a me train up there, it's a we train. And when we took over in 2011, we Republicans changed the direction of the state. We took us from a fiscal mess to fiscal prosperity. We reduced the burden on businesses and made North Carolina the great state it is today.
Okay, well, thank you. And for this next round of questions, Mr. Cleveland, we will start with you and work our way back down the table. And to ask our question will be our Chamber Chairman, Jeff Hudson.
Mr. Cleveland, if you're elected to serve in the upcoming legislative session, what will be your top policy priority for the state?
I don't set policies for the state. The legislature as a whole does. But I've always worried about immigration, and I file immigration bills every year. And it's not gotten any better under the Biden administration. Matter of fact, it's well known, some 2 million illegals are in the country now, and additional. And it's really something that shouldn't be happening. We're going to continue improving education in the state and healthcare. We're revamping healthcare now. It's been put off, I believe, till April of next year because of some problems. And there's an education committee going on presently to restructure the way we pay teachers. And there's also some other movements in the way we're going to educate. So I would say basically the healthcare and education will be big agendas next year.
Mr. Johnson?
If elected, my priorities will be education and healthcare. Healthcare for our military, retirees, for our veterans, and healthcare for our citizens. I think the state legislature had an opportunity 10, 12 years ago to expand Medicaid, and we haven't done that. It is the single most thing that we could do for this state to help hurting people in the Medicare arena. That opportunity to do that, the federal government gives us that opportunity, and unfortunately, there are many hurting people in this county, and they need more health care. And Medicaid will do that. It will not only solve some of our health care needs, but it will also solve the problem. It will provide jobs. It will help our Medicare systems operate better. But our legislators have refused to do something as simple as increase Medicaid for the state. It goes without saying, education is important. Our teachers just want to be heard. They're doing a great job, but they're not getting the help they need from our legislators. And I'll leave it there.
As we switch races from District 14 to District 15, and vice versa, I'll repeat the question. If you are elected to serve in the upcoming legislative session, what will be your top policy priority for the state? Mr. Shepherd.
Well, I'd like to continue some of the policies that we already have in place that have worked well for the state the last 7 or 8 years, that have put us where we are. As I said earlier, one of the best states in the country to do business with. We're the 9th largest state in the country now, and a lot of that is because people are coming here because it's the best state to come to as far as veterans coming here, the military. We've done many things in our policy to help it conducive for military to retire here. So I'd like to continue some of those tax policies, anything that we can do to help economically in the state. There are other challenges, such as what's happening at the border that there's no control of at this point in time, and that's affecting everyone in this country, including North Carolina. We do need to help those that don't have the insurance to cover them, but those that are working and can afford insurance, we need to help some of those as well. But those are tough issues that we really need to look at, spend more time vetting those. But I've got a problem when some of our senior citizens have worked here, lived here all their lives, and pay taxes, can't get the help they need, and we have people coming into the country illegally, and we can help those. We should be taking care of the citizens in this state that have lived here before we take care of people outside this country and outside this state. That is something we need to look at. I'm also on a committee that helps with improving education, that looks to the citizens and the parents and the children to do what's best for them when it comes to education. So there are a lot of tough issues, but we'll take them head on. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. This round of questioning, we'll stay with District 14, and Mr. Johnson, you'll get the first crack at it. I will remind you, too, that when we are done with all the questions, all the responses to a question, that is when you have the opportunity to use one of your 2 rebuttals if you need it. Okay, this question, again, we'll start with Mr. Johnson and go to Mr. Cleveland, and then back to Mr. Shepherd. Abortion is still legal in North Carolina with some restrictions, but many people are expecting to see changes proposed in state law after the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to reverse Roe v. Wade. In your view, what should abortion law look like in North Carolina?
Roe v. Wade was the law of the land for 50 years. And it has been chipped away at over the last 50 years, and we finally got a ruling from the Supreme Court that passed it to the states. And what I'm hearing from constituency out throughout the county, throughout the state, most of the people that it affects, which are women for the most part, don't like it, don't like the ruling. And so as a representative for District 14, which I aspire to be, that is their choice. My position on it is Roe v. Wade has an option to it where women have the right to make the choice. There are some restrictions for those who are extreme with abortion. There are restrictions in Roe v. Wade that restrict people from just leisurely having abortions. It's all built in. And so, but my position is that a woman's right is God-given, just like your rights are God-given. And so the government should stay out of it, as well as it's left up to the doctor, the family, and the woman who's involved.
Mr. Cleveland.
Roe was created out of whole cloth. There was no constitutional basis for it, and Ruth Ginsburg herself stated that. It took 50 years to overturn it. I do not support abortion. I think it's death. You're murdering a child. Now, with that said, I believe in North Carolina, you eventually will wind up with an abortion law that will allow some very restricted abortions. It really disturbs me, particularly in today's world, where there are all kind of contraceptives, male and female, that can be used, that people use abortion for a contraception. You know, I didn't mean to have the child, let's kill it. That's wrong. I don't care how you want to cut it, paste it, paint it, it's wrong. And with that said, I am not going to put any bills in because others will be doing it. But as I stated earlier, there will be abortions allowed, I believe, in the state. I don't think they'll be stopped, but they'll be restricted.
Okay, and we'll go with Mr. Shepherd next. This question is about the abortion. And in your view, what should abortion law look like in North Carolina?
Well, I believe when the Supreme Court ruled as they did, they returned it to the states where it probably should have been anyway. With that being said and done, I think we will look at that in the session coming up if the Republicans have the majority. I, too, am pro-life. I believe in doing all we can to sustain life, to help people. I don't think abortion should be used for birth control or, as George said, contraceptives. I do think there'll be some restrictions on that. I think in the life or death of the mother, it's another circumstance, or rape or incest, and those things will have to be considered. I think we all have a right, but at the same time, do we have the right to murder an innocent child? And to me, that's what it amounts to, that we're taking an innocent child that doesn't have a say-so in it. And there's so many ways today. There's adoption, and there's other avenues and birth controls that we can use to help with that. I am pro-life, and I've always been pro-life, and I do realize there are some exceptions to the rule in certain situations, and we need to look at all of those when we craft a bill that would handle abortion in our state.
Okay, yes, Mr. Johnson. Did you have
I mentioned earlier that Roe Wade was birthed out of the 14th Amendment, so it has constitutional grounds. Secondly, no one likes abortion. No one likes it. But as was mentioned by Mr. Shepherd, there are circumstances, the life of the mother, other cases where they have to be done if we're going to save a life at all. We hear strong words.
Okay, thank you. It's just 30 seconds for the rebuttal, so it'll catch you quick.
Thank you. I'll come back.
Thank you, sir. This question we will start again back with you, Mr. Shepherd, and it will be asked by Jeff Hudson.
Mr. Shepherd, many people also are expecting changes in the laws regulating marijuana in the state. Would you support legalization in North Carolina? If so, under what, if any, conditions?
As it stands now, I would not support legalization of marijuana. Most of our mental health roles in the state of North Carolina are there, and most of those people that are in those programs are there because of drug abuse problems and alcohol abuse problems. My problem is I want to look at the facts and figures in states that have okayed marijuana use. I want to see what the facts and figures are there, what's happening there, how many more are in mental health institutions and going through mental health support because of the marijuana use and so forth. I know there's a bill that would be medical marijuana. I also think we need to thoroughly vet all those because sometimes things look good on paper, but they're not necessarily good in the long run. And I'm sympathetic for people that have neuropathy, Parkinson's, PTSD, any number of things. I, for one, have neuropathy myself, and I would certainly listen to what the doctors and professionals had to say, but I want to see the facts and figures. Is it really helping? Is it really making a difference? Or is it just something that if we okay it and we look at other states and it's creating other problems for the law enforcement and creating other problems in our with our families and so forth, then I think we need to look at all that. So I'm not in support of legalizing marijuana in North Carolina.
Thank you. Moving to the District 14 race, Mr. Johnson, would you support legalization of marijuana in North Carolina? If so, under what, if any, conditions?
I'm not ready to support full legalization of marijuana in North Carolina. I am on record for supporting medical marijuana because our citizens and our military personnel needs it. 37 states has adopted it, and we talk about studying it and looking at these issues. I'm trying to get to this for the House of Representatives so we can do something. I haven't been there a long time. These issues have been out there forever. Why does it take us so long to do something? They've been tested. And sometimes all we can say is that, you know, we want to look at it, study it, and that's okay. But my goodness, people are dying. 22 suicides a year in the military, for military personnel, veterans. It's time to do something. Thank you.
Mr. Cleveland.
I am not in support of legalizing marijuana. I see no real correlation between deaths by suicide and marijuana. I have, within the last week, read another article from the psychiatry organization stating that THC is a major cause of psychotic events. Marijuana is not a good thing. And, you know, it's been around forever. The Democrats in North Carolina wouldn't make it legal. I don't think us Republicans are gonna do it, even though there's all kind of pushes to do it. It is, for many years, it was a doorway drug to harder things. I believe that's true. I believe there are other ways that people claim, that for people that claim they need marijuana to be treated without using marijuana. It's a bad thing for society. The states that have done it have not had any enlightening, you know, results from it. Matter of fact, there have many drastic results if people take the time to look, police events and others. So it's not a good idea, and it's nothing I will support.
Okay. We're going to move on to the next rounds of questions, and we will start with you, Mr. Cleveland. One of the biggest challenges facing North Carolina families these days is finding affordable and quality child care. The implications impact not only children and families, but in many cases, employers who find issues finding workers because some parents are choosing to stay home rather than take the modest pay that might be available for some of the jobs that they could get. How can state government address staffing shortages in child care and other issues that might be contributing to this situation?
I believe state government has already increased pay for child care people. I think that policy will stay in place, and I think that it'll probably be looked at again this session and possibly be increased some more to encourage people to get in that area. We have policies to make sure that child care facilities are correctly monitored and taken care of for the children's sake. I discovered at a meeting a couple of weeks ago that around the bases, they're having trouble getting child care, and if we could authorize child care facilities that was approved in the communities for federal subsidization, that they can expand their use of our regular child care facilities. I believe that'll be looked at and done. We at the state level are well aware of the problem, and it's going to be addressed. Exactly how, I'm not sure, but we're going to do what the state can do to improve and expand child care.
Mr. Johnson?
Child care has always been a challenge. Businesses, I think COVID taught us something. A lot of employees are working from home. They didn't come back to the office, and a lot of mothers are staying at home and working. And I think that's important. And I think our government should encourage that through businesses that can't afford to do that or can get the job done through working at home. That's one way to do it. But child care is very expensive, and there's not enough opportunities for parents to make money to be able to afford it. And as Mr. Cleveland mentioned, there's some subsidization that goes on, and I don't think there's enough of it. One of the challenges that I see is that we've made North Carolina very business friendly and becoming more business friendly, and I'll explain that later, but it's not people friendly. and that's where I seek to make it more people-friendly. We have opened the gates to all the businesses that come in tax-free come 2029, but my taxes, your taxes, are still at a higher rate. So it's not people-friendly. And that talks to childcare and other things that people have to buy in the marketplace. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Shepherd, the question is about the challenges that face North Carolina families in finding affordable and quality childcare. How do you think that state government can address things like staffing shortages in childcare facilities and other issues that might be creating this situation?
Well, that's something we certainly need to look at, but I will say this, childcare has increased in North Carolina over the last several years, and there are subsidies out there that parents can apply for to help with them with financial assistance for childcare. There's not as many private daycares now as there were, but we have a lot in the community that are through churches and so forth that offer subsidies and offer help. There are private schools where they can get subsidies for that as well. As far as finding employees, that's a tough issue for the whole country right now. You can't find employees that will work anywhere. We're finding the supply chain has been drastically affected because people aren't working, I guess because they're getting a check from somewhere so they don't have to go to work. So it's hard in any area that we look at today to find employees because of what's happening in our country. With that being said and done, we've got to encourage in some way employees to go back to work, for people to go back to work. And in the child care arena, we need to make a way so that some of these parents maybe can volunteer and work in these child cares on a basis if they want to stay at home and work or whatever, make a way for them to be able to do that. But we have increased child care opportunities in the state of North Carolina. We can always do better.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that this question will start, if my calculations are correct, with Mr. Cleveland. Is that right? You got that? I believe Mr. Johnson had first crack at the last question.
I did.
Or did you?
I did.
You did. Okay. So now we got that straight. We'll go to Mr. Cleveland and work our way back down the table. And our question will be from Jeff Hudson.
Mr. Cleveland, both bodies of the legislature have considered Medicaid expansion in North Carolina in some manner, but have yet to agree on a final bill. How well has the state handled Medicaid expansion, and what should be the next step?
I'm not for Medicaid expansion. I'll state that right up front. And one of the main reasons I'm not for this Medicaid expansion is that it's taking healthy male men and putting them on Medicaid. I have a problem with that. If you're healthy and you can work, you should take care of yourself. The state and the federal government, from my limited opinion, does too much for the person and for the individual. We're taking individual responsibility away from individuals and giving it to a government agency, and that's wrong. Our country wasn't founded on government agencies. It was founded on people willing to work and make a life for themselves. With that said, I believe leadership is committed to getting some type of Medicaid expansion. What it's going to look like, I honestly don't know. Whether it'll pass the House, I honestly don't know. But I will not vote for it.
Mr. Johnson.
I am for Medicaid expansion. I've listened to our leaders at the legislative branch talk about this for the last 12 years. The federal government offered it to states. Many states have taken advantage of it. I think our excuse here at this state was that we may have to pay it back. That hasn't happened yet. But hospitals have closed in North Carolina, people have died, and even with the concerns that we've heard just now, there's still a great amount of people, 500,000 I understand, that could greatly benefit from Medicaid expansion. And it's important that we do it, and we do it now. We played around with it for 12 years, and it's time to do something about it. It's just that simple. I'm all for it.
Moving now from the District 14 race to the District 15 race, Mr. Shepherd, how well has the state handled Medicaid expansion, and what should be the next step?
I want to go back to 2011 when I first started serving in the General Assembly. We had Medicaid. We were also millions of dollars in debt to the federal government where we had to pay Medicaid payments back. At that time, we had more Medicaid being paid for in the state of North Carolina than any state in the Southeast, including Virginia. We had to pay that back. Also, when you say that you're going to accept Medicaid expansion, you better read the fine line. At that point in time, and nothing has changed to prove me that I would feel any different about it. At that point in time, if you expanded something in Medicaid, that federal government may say, well, we'll pay 90%, you pay 10. Well, 3 years later, they may bail on you and say, you got to pay the 90%, and that happened to the state of North Carolina, and then we'll pay 10. So nothing has happened to prove to me that that would not happen again in our state. And I remind you, we did have to pay a lot of that back in 2011 because at that time we were in a recession. This state had high unemployment and so forth, and that was one of the biggest issues we had was paying that Medicaid expansion back. And when you cut something that you've increased in Medicaid, you have to get permission from the federal government to get out of it. So we need to remember all that and make sure that that's not going to happen again. Thank you.
Okay, and this time, Mr. Shepherd, we'll start with you and work our way back down the table. I might have got a little bit mixed up a while ago, but I don't know how that happened to you. The state controls most of the funding for major transportation projects that impact Onslow County. What are your feelings about our transportation system here, and what can you do as a legislator to improve it?
Well, as a transportation chair, I especially take an interest in Onslow County. We all know that we're growing, and a lot of counties around us are not. Craven lost people, Duplin lost people, Lenore, Onslow County, Pender, and New Hanover gained people, Brunswick tremendously, they grew tremendously in the last census. We also know that here in Onslow County, we've got the bypass that we want to put out on 53, 258, and 24 that connects into here. We're in the process of doing that. In the General Assembly last session in the budget, I put some money in to go to the city to help move that priority up for that because it had dropped down. However, in the budget process, we couldn't get that done. There were some people on the other side that did not support that. I will continue to advocate for funding for Onslow County, for transportation and other needs in Onslow County, and I think all of our representatives will do that. The problem with STI, and STI is a good program that we use to grade out projects and so forth. Most of the traffic and most of the people live between Charlotte and Raleigh. Those areas are getting 60% of the transportation funding because they want them because of the way the system is set up. We have to fight and in some way find a way to make sure counties like Onslow down east get the funding they need for infrastructure. And that's something that we're I continually look at. And thank you.
And we'll move to the District 14 candidates. And Mr. Johnson, the question here is about transportation. And what are your feelings about our transportation system here in Onslow County? And what could you as a legislator do to improve it?
I think more money should be put into it for this area. It has improved somewhat since I first arrived at Jacksonville back in 1970. Considerably improvements have taken place. We have a depot now, which is a wonderful thing. Highway dollars, big projects need to get the attention needed. And it's up to our legislators to continue to fight for it and make sure it happens. I'm happy with Highway 17. That took a while coming, and but as a Marine, young Marine here in this area, getting to the main arteries has always been a challenge. Families here, they live other places, and they need the best routes, best transportation, best highways we can possibly afford.
Okay, Mr. Cleveland, on the issue of transportation.
Could I say ditto with Mr. Shepherd, Representative Shepherd? he basically hit the nail on the head. We are able to get some specific funding for small projects in the state, or not the state, in the county, such as the problem up at the schools at Swansboro. We got money for that, and then there's other road projects that we've managed to get some funds for. But the STIP program is much better than it was back under the Democrats, where everyone had their hand in the pot, and if you were important, you got what you needed. If you weren't important, you didn't get anything. So we've improved the process tremendously. And this last session, we're taking some general fund money and moving it over so that they'll have more funds to complete projects. So we're well aware of the problem, and we're trying to alleviate as much as we can for the areas that are not getting what they really need.
Mr. Shepherd, I believe you have, we are through with that round of questions, so I believe you had a rebuttal card that, or a
Yeah.
extra time card that you would raise.
I want to use that particular question because I think we need to indicate, let people know in the public that don't know this. Transportation usually mostly funded highways. It now funds your ports. It funds your waterways, your inlets. The dredging money comes from there. It funds the railroad, the North Carolina Railroad, and those kind of projects. So transportation money now goes to a variety of different areas where years past it was all spent on highways. I'll finish with that.
Okay. I did get a little bit out of order a while ago, so we're going to go back to Mr. Cleveland. He gets the first bite of the apple here, and we'll go back down the row, and Mr. Hudson will have the question.
Mr. Cleveland, would you support a statewide bond referendum to build new schools? And does that represent a good solution for Onslow County?
No, I won't support a statewide bond referendum. We're giving the counties money to build schools. We have gotten our budget in such a position that we can afford under the STIP program to give money to counties for schools, and there's other programs. So we're looking forward and making sure that counties are getting funds to build their schools. I don't think going in debt to do something today is a good idea if you can take care of it a month from now. So I wouldn't support a bond issue, and the state government under Republicans are putting money into school construction.
Mr. Johnson?
I support what the county commissioners and the leaders of the county see fit to do with our school system and funding. I've heard of a quarter-cent sales tax that might solve some of that problem, and I do support that. But what we cannot do as legislators, in my opinion, is tell the county what they need. In my opinion, they're the ones here doing the work, and they kind of understand what it is and how they would like to do it. And so as their representative, I will support, within reason, what they're trying to accomplish.
Moving now to the District 15 race. Mr. Shepherd, would you support a statewide bond referendum to build new schools? And does that represent a good solution for Onslow County?
I wouldn't support a statewide bond referendum to build new schools. Individually, counties now and the legislative delegation from the county can support that. Depending on the situation, I may support a bond that would be voted on by the citizens, where the citizens, the taxpayers, made the decision whether or not they wanted to spend that kind of money on that situation. I think we have the right amount of money. I just think different areas spend that money differently. I know for a fact in the community I live in, I met with some parents a while back, and they live probably 5 miles from Southwest High School. And some of those children are being bused 21 miles to Dixon schools. And they said, why are we having to do this? And yet Southwest High School at that time had 7 empty classrooms. That is totally unsatisfactory. those children ought to be going to the schools closer to their homes unless it's a mile or two difference. So I think we got some disparity sometimes on where the money is spent and how it's spent when you've got empty classrooms one place and children are being bused 20 miles farther. So, we need to look at some of those issues before we start building new schools when we've got empty classrooms in another school that's closer to those children. So I would certainly, after looking at the situation, bring it up that it can be voted on by the public and make the citizens make that decision.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, I believe you get first crack at this question,
You're on track.
if I'm right, correct about that. Some people in North Carolina have advocated for making all municipal races partisan or by party. The idea has been discussed locally for city and town boards, such as the Jacksonville City Council. What are your feelings about such a proposal?
I've heard about it. I think the ward system in the city is okay. We know why it was brought about. Some people don't. It was brought about to bring diversity to city government. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of diversity in other places, county government. And so the ward system or the districting process is important if you care about equal representation for everyone, and diversity, if you will. And so that's my take on it. But the voters will decide that if it's put on the ballot. So I believe in making sure that each part of the community, each part of the county is represented properly. And so the ward system is one way that you get that done.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Cleveland. Mr. Cleveland, the question here is about partisan.
Read the question again.
Yeah, I will. Some people in North Carolina have advocated making all municipal races partisan or by party, candidates running by party. The idea has been discussed locally for city and town boards, such as the Jacksonville City Council, for example. What are your feelings about such a proposal?
I have no problem with partisan races. And when you run for office, people should know what your basic core values are. And if you look at what we have in the world today in this country, Republican, Democrat, Independent, I think we got a Green Party now on the ballot and some others. I believe the voter needs to know that. He needs to know whether you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, and what your core values are and where you're coming from. So I have no problem with partisan races.
Okay. Mr. Shepherd, do you need me to reread the question or?
I think I have it.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with partisan races either. I don't have a problem with nonpartisan races. I think whatever's best for that particular city or county is what I would support. If the city would like to have that, it's put to a vote, and the voters decide on that. But I do believe also that people want to know today who you are. Sometimes when you run as unaffiliated, nobody knows what you stand for. As Representative Cleveland said, people want to know if you're conservative in your core values or if you're not conservative. And the general public that I talk with all the time, that is very important to them. They want to know where you are on taxes. They want to know where you are on a lot of social issues today because of what we see coming through the school system, being pushed down to our school systems. So I think it's important that people realize, and if you look at the last election for school board, people wanted to know that. And they were very clear in their vote when they voted in the last school board election. They wanted conservative candidates on the school board that stood in the gap for parents and so forth. So, I think partisan elections are okay as far as I'm concerned.
Let me just say, I didn't
Johnson.
address the question properly. Partisan elections is, I hear to my left and to my right, one way or the other. But partisan elections are, we have voters who don't have a lot of voter education. And so what has happened over time is that we've moved to this partisan system, and so all you have to be is one way or the other. And so people just check the box based on that. And so that is not where we should be. We should be picking the character of the person and the person that's running and looking at the individual.
All right, well, thank you. I tell you what, we're right at the cusp of being able to ask another question. We have some other questions for you guys. But let's go ahead and move in, because we do like to pull this in under an hour. Let's go ahead and move into the closing statements. And we're going to start with Mr. Cleveland and work our way down the table. You have a minute and a half.
Thank you. I've enjoyed being a state representative. It's been a life learning experience. I've met many people that I would have never talked to before. I've worked with people that I would not have worked with before, not because I didn't like them or anything, I just would have not had the opportunity. And it's been a great growing experience. And most folks that I work with on both sides of the aisle are willing to sit down and talk and try to reason with you. Sometimes we come to agreement, sometimes we don't. But it's been a wonderful experience for me. And I want to continue that experience. I want to continue working for the citizens of our county and our state and making sure that, in my mind, the right thing is being done to keep North Carolina on the right track, keep our taxes low. We've lowered taxes from 7% to 4.99%. We've lowered, well, it's obvious what we've done. We've taken a state that was almost bankrupt and brought it to a state that has a ample fund balance to take care of anything that comes towards us. So I'm going to continue working on that, and with the citizens' help, stay up there and do what's right for the state.
Mr. Ike Johnson.
I want our citizens to know that a vote for me will always put you first. I would be just a representative of what you want to see in this county. I will not put corporations before you. And that's what we've seen happen over the past 10 years. We've seen corporations' taxes go down. In 2029, they will be zero. And yours will be, in 2027, 3.99. They're 5.25 now. So when we start to pick and choose businesses versus people, and oh, by the way, that money is those monies that would have been taken from corporations, we would have better schools. We would have better health care. We will have better highways. We are letting the corporations off the hook. And I know we want to have a balance, and that balance is important. I've been in corporate America. That balance is very important. But when we put corporations over people, we have a major problem in this society. And so a vote for me will represent the people of Onslow County and not my personal opinions. I thank you for your vote.
Mr. Shepherd in District 15.
Once again, thank you all for allowing us to come today. First of all, I want to say I'm a bivocational pastor as well as a representative in the North Carolina General Assembly. I've served since 2011, and the greatest things to me are being a servant of the people of North Carolina and Onslow County. When someone calls me and they're having some red tape or having problems getting through to the revenue department, or they have an issue, and I can make a phone call and I can get a response in a couple hours to help them because of the red tape, that gives me great satisfaction. That's what I'm there for. As a pastor of a church, you're a servant, and when you serve in North Carolina General Assembly, you're a servant of the people. And the greatest satisfaction I have is that when anyone calls me, no matter what their status in life is, no matter what race they are, no matter what their social status is, that I'm there to help them. And I want to continue to do what I'm doing and keep our state where it's at and keep it prosperous and be there, the first place here in Onslow County with Don Rochelle's group. We advocated for some money for them because it's a very important part of our community when you talk about quality of life and you talk about young children that go through trauma and traumatized situations. And I was so glad to be a part of helping with that because that's what I'm there for, and to look out for these children and to help organizations like Don Rochelle's group And so I look forward to serving you again, if it's your pleasure.
Okay, and I want to thank my colleague to my left, Lachey here, for keeping you on track and on time. And I appreciate your cooperation in doing that. It's been a very informative program. And then with that, I'll turn it over to Lorette.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Jeff, for being here with us today. And of course, thank you for the candidates and your willingness to serve Onslow County. Also, a thank you to the City of Jacksonville for the use of these facilities, and again, our sponsor, Duke Energy. Now, if you missed any part of Forum Onslow, just check the listings for G10 for the rebroadcast dates and times. And remember, your vote is your voice in matters important to our schools, county, and state. Absentee ballot request forms are available online at the Onslow County Board of Elections website. You can also find the dates, times, and location for early one-stop voting. Election Day is November 8th from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. at your local precinct. On behalf of the Jacksonville-Onslow Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining us for the Meet the Candidates Forum, and this concludes our program.